Hi, and welcome to Toni Time. Well, it's been a while since we've been on the air with the pandemic and everything, but we're back and we have a very interesting show where a woman has had a journey. Her name is Emma, and I want you to listen to her story. I want you to understand it. Some of you perhaps may have a hard time with it, but don't be judgmental. Listen to the full story. And now we're going to talk with Emma. Emma, how are you today?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So, we've come together with our friend April doing her show on iHeartRadio, and you're the producer. And you and I got to know each other. And I first met you. You were Jason.
That's right.
And one day you sent a text and said, "You're not Jason. Emma is who you are and who you really are."
Yes.
Tell us about your journey.
Well, my journey actually started when I was a baby, because I was born intersex. And for people that don't understand that, I usually get labeled as transgender. But what an intersex is I literally have both parts. I have the male part and the female part. Sometimes both can be seen, sometimes only one can be seen, but they're both there. And for me, it was the male part that you could see, but you could see female parts if you look close enough and you knew what you were looking for. But as I got older, it was more profound. So as I went through school, as I grew up, I started realizing something was wrong. And I was so young, I was 3. And I didn't know how to tell my parents. How do you tell your parents? I mean, I wasn't even supposed to know what a man or woman was at 3, but I knew something was wrong. And I came out, the first time it really came out really hard was when I came home from kindergarten. I had said that my friend Michael, I won't say his last name, but my friend Michael was a good friend of mine in kindergarten. I said I wanted to marry him. And my next door neighbor heard that because we were outside. He flipped out. Now, I was born in Connecticut, so it was a little bit different. I was born in Bristol, and it was a very Lutheran German town. So very strict, very, and so when they heard that, they were like, "Oh my God, you can't say that. You're going to be gay. Your kid's gay." And I saw the look on my mom's face, the horror. And I said, "I cannot put you through this." So
and you were 3 years old.
No, at this time I was 5, but I knew when I was 3. So I was about 5 years old and I said, "I can't do this." So what I did is I put myself into this little bubble. And so I just started kindergarten and I really wasn't hanging out with friends. I couldn't relate to anybody, I mean, I wanted to hang out with the girls. I wanted to play house. I wanted to play with the dolls, but I couldn't do that. I was supposed to play with the cars and roughhouse with the boys. And I didn't want anything to do with that. So I kept going into my own little cubby, just kind of sitting by myself. And the teacher got worried and constantly told my parents that I wasn't interactive. And that actually was a very common theme all the way through school. And so what I did was, I'm like, I don't know how to be a boy. I just don't. I wanted longer hair. I mean, I hated when my mom cut in my hair. So what I did is I looked at other boys and I mimicked them. If they liked football, I liked football. If they liked cars, I liked cars. But it always showed when we went to go play because I wasn't into it, and all the kids were into video games. I mean, this is when Nintendo NES system came out. Everybody loved it. And I had no interest in it at all. I mean, I'd play a game here and there, but so it was tough making friends. And I thought when I moved down here that's another thing. I grew up in a Lutheran church and a Lutheran school. So this was very taboo. When I moved down here to Florida, I really thought that I was going to have a second chance. And I kind of did. But when I moved down here, I was in 5th grade. I was actually in 6th grade. They pushed me back to 5th grade because you have to be a certain age before September down here. So I was already a year. Now I became a year older than everybody somehow, according to their things. So here we go into 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. I had to finish off 5th grade by like 3 months. Well, you know what happens in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade is when you start finding love and you start getting those hormones. So in 8th grade, I never dated anybody down here, and everybody's like, "What's wrong with you?" And I remember the time that my friend exposed me, as that was when he brought over Playboys. I had a couple of guys over. I never had sleepovers for good reasons, and I didn't pick a Playboy. And he's like, "Why are you not looking at Playboy?" I said, "It just doesn't do anything for me." Then when they thought I was gay. Then's when the bullying started, and which started in 8th grade and ended up in through my 12th grade year. And it got progressively worse as people had more and more objects to use against me. So I got to the point where I really had to protect myself. And then in 10th grade, towards the end of 10th grade, I noticed that I had little like lumps under my nipples, and I was like, could this be cancer? You know, I'm like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? And luckily, by the time I was the beginning of my junior year, which was like 3 months later, I was 18. I had my own insurance, and I was actually able to go to the doctor. And I didn't want to scare my mom, because unless I knew it was cancer.
No, of course not. Yeah.
So I went to the doctor, and he goes, this is not cancer. He goes, it is breast development. He goes, let's do a blood test on you and see what the heck's going on. So they took a blood test, and I had almost perfect estrogen. I had almost no testosterone. And he goes, your bleeding ulcer is a bleeding uterus. You're having monthly cycles. And I didn't really think about that, because it's like, it would go away. Bleeding ulcers don't go away. So he said, well, we have 2 options. You can do nothing, or you could do testosterone. But he goes, seeing that you're bullied and seeing that you have already kind of lived like this your whole life, he goes, maybe you should consider the testosterone. I took the testosterone, worst mistake of my life. It got me through school. It kept me, it allowed me to develop facial hair, allowed me to develop some chest hair, some leg hair, deepen my voice a little bit, but it also expedited the MS that I had. So I got really, really sick. And in 2000, when I got married, I stopped taking the testosterone, and for 3 months I was laid out. I could not move because the testosterone was killing me. I took so much of it. And they said it was okay to stop because I started producing a little bit on my own. So I lived as a guy all the way through. I tricked my wife, I tricked my family, I tricked everybody. And then one day in 2019, I slipped and hit my head right at the base of my head with a pole that broke open the skin, blood all over the place. One of the worst concussions I had. I should have been dead. They said that I was just a really bad concussion. I was lucky it would heal, but they didn't know that it stopped the testosterone. And by the end, I'm going to say probably by the end of 2019, around November, December, I started noticing the little lumps in my boobs again. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So I decided just to let it go. Maybe it just go away. Well, in February, the breast development started. That's when my wife found out. She's like, why is your boob swollen? And I said, it's probably just an infection. I'll just go talk to the doctor. And then we were driving later on that day, we were going to go to the mall. And I said, you know what? That is a bold-faced lie. I said, I'm tired of lying. I'm done. So I told her. It took me the entire ride to try to get it out of my mouth, but I did. And she was shocked. And she goes, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, I could take the testosterone, but I said, it's probably going to kill me or lay me in the hospital or do something from the MS. So I don't want to do that. So I said, I can do nothing and see what happens. And she goes, well, I don't want to lose you. So she goes, do nothing and see what happens. This is what you got. So this is technically what my body did without anything. The only thing that isn't real is my hair. And that's because of the fact that testosterone cost me my hair, a lot of it, but I'm growing it back. When I stopped the testosterone, when the testosterone stopped at me, it stopped falling out. It's growing back. And obviously I had a boy's haircut, so it was real short and it's growing out. So I'm hoping in the next maybe year, I will be able to have my hair just like this, because this is actually my natural hair color. So this is really what I'll look like when it grows out. Right. And so, this is how I would wear my hair anyway. So there's really nothing that's going to change. It's just going to be fake hair for real hair. That's it. And did not take any hormone therapies. I have not done any surgeries.
Oh,
They did put me on hormone therapy because I went to see a doctor under the care of my therapist. And he said, you really need to do this. So I'm like, okay. They took a blood test before I went in and started the therapies. And what I got back was pretty remarkable. And for a normal woman, they should have between 100 and 200 levels of estrogen and like 40, 50 for testosterone. 40, 50 for testosterone for men too, but they are between 700 and 2,700 for testosterone. Without taking the hormones yet, my female hormones, my estrogen was at 189, 190, and my testosterone was at 301. So the testosterone was actually impacting my estrogen, which was giving me the mood swings. It was sending me into being sick. I had harder periods. I was all screwed up. So they said,
yeah.
we're going to give you the hormones not to transition, but to keep you level. And so that's what I'm on now. And then I just got back some word that they also took a chromosome test, and I am physically, chromosomally female. So.
Wow, Emma, I mean, for what you went through at a young age, I mean, because I'm sure there was nobody you could really talk to.
Not at all.
How were your parents during this?
During the time they found out about me, or growing up?
Growing up.
Growing up, they treated me like a man. They treated me like a boy. I mean, I was always more feminine. You know, I was the one that wanted to get out there and garden. I was the one that was doing the artwork. They tried to get me in sports, but it just didn't work. They tried to get me in the Cub Scouts, didn't work. Just wasn't interested in anything of that, but I loved helping my mom bake Christmas cookies. I loved helping my mom bake, pizzas. And so I kind of stayed to myself, but they did give me some toys. Like I have the original Rainbow Bright. I have a Care Bear. I have all those things and I still have them. I told them it was for my cousins, but it was for me. And they were pretty respectful about that. They never questioned me why I really never dated anybody. And I never talked about sex or love or relationships.
Right.
They were probably relieved when I got married. But regardless, they were wonderful. And I was most worried about losing my mom and my dad when I told them. My dad, I don't know if he's taken it very well. I think he is. He wants the best for me, but I think he's having a harder time with it. My mom accepted it 110%.
Sure.
And honestly, I was supposed to be a twin when I was born. So I don't know if I maybe have like maybe my brother and me sucked together are the egg.
Yeah.
So literally you're seeing the female that the male took over. So she pretty much has both her kids and me, which is pretty cool.
She does. And I'm sure with your father, you are his child. He's going to love you. Sometimes parents, not your father in particular, but sometimes parents feel, what did they do wrong? But they didn't do anything wrong.
No.
Not at all. Now, are you the only child or?
I have a brother. So it's like they technically have a girl and a boy. And so, I mean, it's not like they lost anything. It's not like he only had like one girl and one boy, I mean, to begin with. So they have the best of both worlds. Yeah, they had two sons, but now they have one son and one daughter.
Exactly. Now, as you were going through this, and I'm sure you had a lot of confusion within yourself, did you feel from your teens on up, did you feel a loneliness? Did you feel, which I'm sure you did, feel a loneliness as you were going forward? Were you looking for answers, or were you trying to be what everybody wanted and you weren't getting what you wanted from you?
A little bit of everything. Yeah, a little bit of everything. I mean, I knew that I had these thoughts. I knew I had these desires. I had no interest in women at all. I didn't.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I can't come out and say that. So I really can't be with anybody. And
Yeah,
the idea of that was if I do pursue that, I would be gay. And if I
yeah,
don't pursue it and be with guys, I'm gay. So,
yeah.
and I couldn't understand why I was going through this fight, and I had nobody to talk to. I couldn't tell my friends. I couldn't
No.
tell my parents. I mean, the lie was just too deep. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I was literally going through life by myself. I never had a girlfriend, never had a boyfriend. I just to kind of keep some of the bullying down and the nasty comments down. I did ask a couple of girls to at least just be with me for like 2 weeks and then dump me. And so
Yeah.
they just think that that I'm normal. And that did
Right.
work a little bit, but I'm just glad that they did that. But it was really funny because when I could go up to any girl, like the guys would have me ask the girls out for them because I could just walk up to a female, ask her, talk to her like nothing was wrong, get back out. And they couldn't do that. So well, they could, they just didn't want to. They were
They
scared.
didn't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was really funny because one time I was doing an art show and we had to set it up inside of a classroom. And I chose Miss Higgins' room, which was my English teacher at the time. And I'm up there putting my stuff up there, and this girl comes in with two other girls, and she's saying like, "Oh my goodness," she goes, I couldn't do my work, and I'm so sorry. I'm having a period. It's really bad this month. It's really thick, and I'm having problems." And the teacher's like, "Shh, there's a gentleman in the room," and she looks up there. She goes, "That's just Jason. He's one of us." I was like, "Oh, cool." So I got that a lot. And
Yeah.
the girls are like, talking to you is like talking to a sister. You understand more than most guys do, and they couldn't understand why. So it's
Right. Of
like I
course.
had semi connections and trying to drown these things out to where I don't have the desires. I had to think, act, how my mannerisms. I had to push that down so nobody would understand who I was, and I had to pretend to be somebody I wasn't to make everybody else happy. And
Oh,
that was tough.
I'm surprised you didn't go into a depression.
Oh, I was.
Or, yeah, I would think so.
I'll tell you,
I
I
mean,
almost killed myself twice, and
I think that,
I almost got away with it once. One time it was really weird because I tried cutting myself. I couldn't cut myself, even with the
yeah.
worst knives. I couldn't do it. I was like, "What is going on here?" And then the other time that I decided to do it, it's Florida, it's hot. I got in this really heavy duty like sweater and long pants, middle of summer, sat outside and cooked myself in the car. That one almost succeeded.
Oh,
So,
wow. Who found
um,
you?
nobody. I woke up outside of the car. I still don't know to this day how that happened because I locked the door from the outside.
Oh, my.
So it was the divine grace of God, or somehow subconsciously I got up and got out. That's
That
all
could
I
happen.
can. That's
Yeah.
all I can think of because it's like I should not be here right now.
Well, you're supposed to be here because each attempt failed. And you're
Exactly.
supposed, I mean, you have a mission on this earth. You
Yeah.
really do. You have a good heart. You have a good understanding. Um, what about your brother? Now, is he older than you, younger than you? How is his acceptance?
He's about 2 years younger than me. He does not know yet. Um, we're a little worried about how he will take it. So we're trying to break it into him at the right time because this really just kind of happened. I mean, I just told my mom in March and my dad in
Well,
March. So, I mean, it hasn't been that long. And my brother's been traveling and doing some other stuff. So we don't really want to distract him from what he's doing.
no.
So we were just going to wait till he gets back and then tell him when he's here and he can see things and see how he reacts to it. I hope he's gonna be accepting of it.
Well, how was your relationship with him when he was younger? Did you have a
Younger
close
was great. He
relationship?
was like one of my best friends. I mean, we used to go out
Okay.
and play together. We used to do all kinds of stuff together. When we moved down here, things changed a little bit and he kind of pulled away. And the reason I think he did that was because we were two totally different people. And that's when it really showed
Right.
up.
Yeah. And see, that does happen as kids get older. So I would almost think that's a natural thing to happen, a progression. But now, how old are you?
I'm going to be 43 next week.
It's amazing. I mean, when I looked at your photo the first time, I thought you were probably mid-20s, late 20s. This is amazing. It really is. Now, Emma, since you've taken hold of your life and you're being who you are you feeling a sense of freedom?
So much. I felt like I was in a jail with shackles my whole life, just being shackled
Yeah.
to the wall like you see on TV, shackles on my feet. And it took one person to see me as me last year for me to break that one chain. When that one chain broke, all hell broke loose. I tore down that prison. I got my wings back, like in Maleficent, when, I don't know if you saw the movie, but when she falls down and the wings attached to her, that was me last year. That entire scene was me last year. And yeah, it was scary as hell. And it still is scary as hell. And I was worried about rejection, but I said, you know what? I'm finally me. I'm finally who I am. And nobody's going to take that from me. And I can only be better now than I was before. I took so much hate and so much rejection my entire life that I said, I'm going to spread love and I'm going to spread happiness to everywhere I go. And I'm going to be the best friend that anybody's ever had if they want me as a friend. I promise you that. And I promised myself that I wanted to be the one person that nobody would ever be able to forget, because I was forgotten my entire life. No more. This is who I am. This is who I want to be. This is not only who I want to be, it is me. And
exactly.
It's a fun time of rediscovery. I think I'm stronger. I think I'm more powerful now than I ever been. And I'm going to change the world for the better. And I think that if people can understand my situation, they'll understand that there are people like me. It's like 1 in 3,000 people have this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, but a lot of people don't say anything because, they either look like a boy, they look like a girl. Me, I was kind of put into a sex change to stay a man because I always had a baby face, I got carded for everything. Even as a guy, got carded for everything. And they're like, there's no way you're in your 40s. And I'm like, kind of am. So I always had that baby face. And that's probably why, because I had more estrogen inside of me than testosterone. So I didn't get into drugs. I didn't get into alcohol. I didn't get into smoking, which I should have. I mean, seeing the circumstances, most people need something to get through it. But I never did. So I pretty much took care of myself, but I didn't take care of myself. My skin is screwed up. My hair was screwed up. I just didn't care, and now I'm doing that and my MS is getting under control.
Wonderful.
My skin feels great. I look better than I ever have before. My hair's growing back. I'm taking care of myself. And I think that's important.
It's very important to make you feel good about who you are, because you've been hidden so long in trying to please everybody else. And now you're to the point where you broke loose. You're Emma. You're out in the world. You've got a wonderful heart. I mean, I can tell when we were talking on the phone for 4 years, doing April's show, not seeing each other. And I could tell that over the phone. But I also picked up the fact you had to be going through something, because with your voice, it was so down sometimes, or you weren't feeling good, but you still went forward. You still honored your commitments. And
always will.
That is amazing. On the second part of this show, I want to talk more about your doctors that we talked about the other day.
Okay.
This first part of the show, I also want to ask you, when you were in high school, bullying, which is horrible, how did they bully you? What did they say?
A lot of physical, more so verbal bullying, but then it started to get to the point where they come up and shove me inside of my locker, just check me into a locker. They would trip me. They would do other things like that. And then it got more violent. I don't know if you could see it. I did put on makeup, but right here, there's a white line. A
Okay.
kid decided to blow up a can of foam insulation on my face. I still have partially my eyebrows still missing here, and they had to scrape it off with razors. And of course I was a kid, so I went outside, Florida sun, and it changed my face a little bit.
Yeah.
I also had a little bit of fertilizer thrown in my face, liquid fertilizer. So it discolored my face here. I have like little wings underneath here. And it's taken me 6-7 months to really work on my skin to get rid of it. So I have these little wings and it burned my mouth. So I get these sores in my mouth all the time. That's never stopped. I've been hit by a car, clipped, not like physically, I didn't go under the car, but they clipped me with the car. I have been even held at knife point. And at one time, I actually got into a physical fight with a guy with a PVC pipe, not a PVC pipe, a galvanized pipe. He's the one that went down, not me. So
Oh, wow.
that's pretty much how I did it.
Wow. That is just, to have that kind of abuse, physical and mental, and
Yeah.
still go forward. What did your parents say when this happened?
At first they came out and helped me. They were very supportive, but
Yeah.
the problem with it is that when we went to the school, it made it worse because the other kids told the other people, and then it got worse and they started grouping up on me. So when I got older, I just dealt with it myself by saying nothing. I just got into the mentality where, you know what? Half these kids are either going to be dead or they're going to be in jail. So why am I worried about them? Let me get through school. Let me do my best. Let me move on. And maybe someday they'll be pumping my gas. And that's kind of what I did. And that's exactly what happened. So I stopped worrying about the bullying. I didn't acknowledge them. I didn't give them power over me. And I just kept walking. And eventually it slowed down a little bit. But I knew if I didn't do something about the breast development in PE, that would have been really tough because I didn't take it until my senior year. But who the hell is going to screw with a senior in school, in PE? Nobody. So because most of them are freshmen. So I kind of had a possible reprieve, but I didn't want to take the chance.
When you and I were on the phone, we were talking about your doctors. And you were telling me that you felt you weren't getting the information, were understanding. Please elaborate on that. I mean, people need to know that.
They do.
Because you were young.
Yeah, I was young. And like I said, I probably should have had my parents there, but I didn't want to scare them. But on the other side, it was something I could control. So I'm like, okay, I'll do this. But here's the thing that gets me the most. It's that, in schools today, and I have no problem with anybody doing what they want to do to be who they are. But a lot of the times they're so including that they kind of tell you need to do this. You need to go through this. And as transsexuals that I've talked to, you don't need to do anything to be transsexual. You don't even need to look like a woman or a man. You don't have to do any of that. And one of the things that they do try to do is force you to go to do the hormones because they're like, it's your right, it's this, it's that. And yeah, it is your right to do it. And it is okay to do it, but you got to know the ins and outs from it. When I went to the doctor, I think they kind of came at me more with the fact that I was going to stay a guy. So they didn't really have any problems with what was going to happen. And they also knew that I was going to be bullied. So they didn't really bother to go through the stuff as much as they did with me. But I regret everything. Like I said, when you take hormones, it changes your body in some way, shape, or form. For a female, that's going to go to a male, it's going to give you more muscle tone. It's going to take away a lot of the fat from your face, so you get a more masculine face. You're going to get a deeper voice. You're going to get facial hair, chest hair, leg hair, underarm hair you don't want. That most people don't want, but you're going to get it anyway. For a guy, and it can even cost you your hair up here. For a guy going to a female, you're going to have breasts. You're going to have a more feminine face. You're going to have other changes with your hips and mannerisms and everything else. So these are permanent things that you will have to deal with. And if you go through the surgeries, for a female to lose her boobs to be a man, or a man to lose his penis to be a female, none of that stuff's ever going to come back correctly. So it's like, I understand what you want to do, but you got to know what's going to happen. You can reverse it, but it will never look the same. A guy that's going to go back to being a girl will never have the same breasts, without implants. They will, and if they had the bottom surgery to develop that, it's never going to look the same. For the guy, the same thing. He's never going to have the same look down there. And he will always have a more feminine looking chest, and he will still have more feminine looking facial features. So for females, if you wanted to be a male and then transition back, for me, I have to go every couple weeks to get my hair, laser hair removal, to remove the hair on my face. Not only is it painful, it's expensive. It's $2,800. And you're burned with a laser. I mean, it's not fun. And you might be burned with a laser in other parts to get back to where you were. So I have no problem with anybody doing what they need to do. And if you need to do this, you do that. But talk to your doctor, tell them what's going to happen to me. When I do this, what's it going to look like if I try to change back? Can I change back? These are all very important things. Like, I lost my hair. I lost patches of my hair because of the testosterone. So I am now going through a very expensive treatment you got to put on your hair. I got to roll this needle through my head to try to, stimulate the blood. And I have a haircut that's going to take me a year or more to grow out. Yeah. So it's very frustrating. And then you get put in this little situation of being like in purgatory, I guess you could say, to get an idea. So you're not this and you're not that. And then you start questioning yourself, am I going to be believable or passable? And even though technically I don't have gender dysphoria, which means if I do the bottom surgery, I do the bottom surgery. Doesn't matter. That would only just make me a little bit more normal, so I don't have two parts down there. I didn't need to see the F on the driver's license or the birth certificate. I don't care what anybody calls me, but for somebody that's transgender, that is a big deal. And this is where if they're kind of caught up in the impersonation of it, they're impressionable. It's so talked about, it's popular. They want to be a part of that. This is where they could do these things and find out they made a mistake. And that's where the suicide goes. So when I went to the doctor, he didn't bother telling me I was going to get facial hair. He didn't tell me I was going to get leg hair, chest hair. So now every other week I have to shave my entire body. I have to go every 6 weeks to get my face burned. My face was technically different, and I lost my hair. And this is possibly permanent reactions I'll never be able to get back. So it's like, I never would have done it if I had known. I would have just let it go and see what happens. But it did cause some extra depression along the way because I hated it. I hated it now, granted, when I had a mustache or a beard, it was like a little tiny, like 5 o'clock shadow. It never grew, but it's still there. And you still have to shave it every day. So it's frustrations like that that get me upset, because they think that they're doing what's best for the person. And yes, that may be it. But with transgender, there are people that are legitimately like that. There are people like me that are legitimately like this. And then there are also people that are just, it's all up here. And then when they realize what they did, one of those days that the sunglasses come off and they're like, what did I do? And this is where it could cause mental problems, physical problems, all kinds of stuff. And you also have to be careful when you're on these hormones that it can cause other things like blood clots and cancers and stuff like that. So these are all things that should have been told. And I didn't know that the testosterone could actually make my MS worse. They knew it.
They knew it, right?
They knew it.
When did you get the MS? Was it before all this, or did the treatment enhance that?
I want to say it was in 1990, because when I was a kid, when I first moved down here, I started getting really tired and fatigued and passing out in class. I noticed I had a hard time speaking sometimes, and some little itty bitty things, but they were never a big group to say red flag. So I never really had to worry about that, but they kept saying it was like the flu. I kept getting the flu every 2 months. But I was able to put it in remission. When I went through the therapy, it put me into the point where they actually thought I had Lou Gehrig's disease. And so for 3 months, I was laid out in bed. I could not walk, could not function. I had no strength. I could not even lift a book hardly. It was too painful. And then they put me on some medication and it went away. And it went away from 2000 to 2014, coming back a little bit here and there, having little things, because it's never completely gone. In 2014 is when I found out I had it, because I had 100% of the symptoms. So I truly believe that the testosterone had a problem with that. I don't think it was my personal testosterone that I was able to produce, because I could still produce both. That's the wonderful part of me. I could literally produce testosterone. I can literally produce estrogen. But what I did was, technically, since I had more estrogen, I was going through a sex change. I didn't think of it like that. So I stopped it, because not every man needs to have testosterone for the rest of their life. Yeah. So I kind of stopped it, and therefore my body got all screwed up, because my estrogen was still strong and still fighting the testosterone, but the testosterone was there enough to screw me up. So I should have been on it, like right now, I'm going to have to be on estrogen the rest of my life, just to protect what I did the damage to with my testosterone. And I don't like that. No. And then, like I said, I'm more worried about my face, because the damage I did to it. It's not so much that I'm worried about being passable anymore, because I mean, when I realized I was going to have boobs, I was like, well, what the heck's going to happen? Am I going to look weird? And I was more worried about, look at what I could have been, and look at the damage I did to myself. And I don't know if I can fix this. And that's what was bothering me more than an M or F on a thing, what I had down below. So just to prove it to myself, after I did this and I got some of my facial features back, I actually went and did a bikini shoot. And good. I didn't have the underwear on, and you cannot tell a thing. So I know
that must have made you feel good.
It did. I mean, yeah, I got a lot of body shaming, because I'm a little bit bigger build than most women are, but not by much. No. But, I'm not going to be a little twig. I never will be. Right. I've always had curves. Even when I was a kid, I had 36-inch hips. Most guys don't have that in a 29 waist, 28 waist. So I wore baggy clothes. So, a lot of the times I did have a slightly bigger build. I think it's my German background. Yeah. And that's fine. And I'm okay with that. So my idea wasn't so much the gender dysphoria, like, oh my God, I don't look like a girl. I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not this. It was literally, I did this to myself. I'm angry that I did this to myself, and I want to fix it. I didn't know. And like I said, if I had known all of this, I may not have done it. Maybe I did. Right. Maybe I would have, but maybe I wouldn't have done it as strong, just enough to keep it down and then stop it and let it go, let it progress. I don't know. I don't know how I would have dealt with it. But if I had known that this was going to be a major problem for the rest of my life, yes, this would have changed. I would have done something completely different.
But you didn't have the information. You didn't know the questions to really ask. No. Now let's talk about that you and I talked about on the phone, the gay world. Mm-hmm. You said you're not accepted in the gay world. Yeah. But I asked you, is it the younger gay or the older gay? And your comment was the younger gay.
It's true.
And I get that. I get that.
I mean, I had a lot of gay friends. Most of them were about my age, but the older gay people that I've run into have been very accepting. Yes. I do get a lot of kickback when I go to like the LGBTQ groups and stuff like that, because the first thing they ask me is, what are you doing for your transition? And I'm like, well, nothing. I woke up and this is me. They're like, they believe that is false, that I'm lying to them, and I'm not. No. I am not doing that at all, but they don't quite understand the difference between transgender and intersex. Yes, it's kind of the same thing, but it's not, because literally I have qualities of both men and female, and I literally can choose what I want to be. I have a transgender man will never have a uterus. I do. A transgender man will never have a period. I do. A transgender man could never get pregnant. I might be able to, had I not been able to screw myself up. I don't know, and I'll never will know.
Right.
You know, these are little things that we just don't think about, even though it's similar. So I was judged pretty harshly by a lot of them, and I've lost a lot of my friends. But like you said, they were the younger generation. They were the ones that, you know, I have no problem with who they are, but they want acceptance, but they're not accepting me either. So they
And that
want
is,
that, they want
yeah,
that respect and that acceptance from me, but they're not willing to give it back. So it goes both ways.
it's so wrong because, as I said, I've been involved in the gay world for 40 years, and I went through the Stonewall, the beginning of AIDS, on and on and on. And my family, which I chose, are the friends that I have now from 1978, whatever. We went through a lot.
Yeah.
They would never be judgmental. As I look at the younger gays today, they are sarcastic. Not all. I mean, there's a few that aren't, but on the most half, what I'm experiencing, and I'm very disgusted with, they're sarcastic, judgmental. And the freedom they have now was handed to them from all of us from years ago. So you should not be judged. You should be accepted with open arms. I mean, you fought a battle and you're a strong woman to go through what you've done alone. You're a strong woman. And I hope you pat yourself on the back and you say, wow.
I
Do
do.
you?
I do.
I'm glad.
And,
I'm glad.
what I've been noticing too, especially in schools and younger, it's like, you have to accept me 110% to love me. Everything about me. If I'm vegan and you're not, you have to accept that, and you have to almost adapt that to your life to be loving me. And that's not true. I don't expect anybody to accept what I've gone through.
Right.
What I do expect is not to be beat up, ridiculed, persecuted, or prosecuted for what I've done, for being me. I go back to the same thing I just talked about in the last segment, is that I will be the best friend to anybody that needs me. I will never judge them. If they're gay, I love them. If they're Black, I love them. If they're whatever they are, I love them.
Right.
And I will always be there for them, and they will have the best friend they ever had. However, if they treat me differently and don't give me the same respect or mutual respect in return, that won't happen to them.
Right. And I do understand that. I mean, you treat people the way you're treated.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is. Let's talk about your wife. When did you marry her? And she must be you two must be so in love with each other.
We are. I got married in July 15th, 2000, right after school. And ironically, like I said, I never dated in school. And I started working at the Ice Palace, which is now the Amalie Arena, where the Tampa Bay Lightning play. That's where we met each other. I was a security guard. She was a ticket taker. And we had a really fun time with this one guy that actually I had to throw out of there because he had cocaine on him, in her section at the Who concert. He was like maybe 3 rows from the stage. So that was where we first met. And that was the first day we met. And we have been together ever since. We've gone all over the world, all over the United States together. We have done just about everything. We've been through everything. And I truly love her to death. She's really the one thing that I was most worried about losing, because she's my best friend. And going through after 21 years and then telling this on her, I thought she'd leave. I really did. And at nighttime, as all this was happening, I still kind of had both Jason and Emma together. So at nighttime, I felt different. I felt like Jason when I went to bed. Yeah. And when I woke up, now I don't feel like that. And that's kind of scaring me a little bit, because it's like, am I losing what she fell in love with? Am I the same person that she will ever be able to love or be with? And yeah, there's a lot of things I can't give her. And I feel so bad about that. But I asked her one time, I said, this is happening. I can't turn it off anymore. I don't think like Jason anymore. I don't act like Jason anymore. I don't even look like Jason anymore. And I said, when I go to bed, I still feel like a woman. I always have. So, but now it's even more. And I said, is this okay? And she goes, look, she goes, it's never been about intimacy. She goes, it's been about companionship. And she goes, you're crazy fun. She goes, I never know what we're going to get when we go out together. The crazy things you do, the things you say. Like one day we were at a museum. I said, hey, they got a zip line. I'm going zip lining. She's like, oh, no, you're not. I'm like, oh, yes, I am. So I went up there and zip lined. And, I do crazy stuff like that. And I'm not afraid to get up and just go somewhere. I'm not afraid to be a good person to people. I'm not afraid to help people. And she really loves that. And so she goes, your companionship is far more important than any intimacy ever could be. And
oh God, she's an
blown away.
amazing.
Yeah.
She's amazing, but she loves you
She
and you
does.
love her.
I
She
do.
loves you and it's a fit. I mean, the first thought that came to my mind, the two of you are definitely soulmates. There was a reason why you met her and she met you. You came together and it works.
It
And
does.
most people do not have that.
They don't. And honestly, we were set to break down and not be married this long by her family, some of my family, friends, everything else. So it was not a positive thing because we got married so young, but it worked out. Now, last year we went to a German restaurant, and my Facebook, I get hit on a lot. And I get a lot of guys sending me some very vulgar things, and she's never had that. And
Right.
I was trying to talk to her through all this because I knew it was going to be tough on her. And she goes, I'm kind of like intimidated by you. I'm like, why would you, and feel like not as worthy. And I'm like, why would you think that? She goes, well, because of what you look like and how these guys are. She goes, I never had that. And so she goes, I know you're pretty. She goes, if you had been like this in school and looked like this in school, she goes, I never would have approached you because I thought I would think that you wouldn't want to be around somebody like me. I said, well, then you really haven't been paying much attention all these years, because I said I talk to everybody and I smile at everybody and I want to help everybody. So I'm like, unless I was a complete prick in school, and she's like, I'm like, you don't ever have to feel like that. I said, I can never be the person you are. So I said, I want to be like you. And I said, so don't ever feel like you're not special or that you're not equal. I said, what these guys are doing is different. They're looking for a quick satisfaction. I said, but I'm not interested in any of that. And she goes, yeah, but you're almost like the prom queen or the homecoming queen. I said, well, think about this. I said, I was never interested in women before you. You were able to nab your homecoming queen that was attracted to men. So you did a good job.
Yeah, absolutely. And what did she say to that?
She smiled and said, I guess it's going to be okay.
Yeah. I mean, you've been together since 2000. That's a pretty long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere.
Nope.
But it's only a growth that you two are doing together. And the bond you have over these years, nobody can break that.
No. And I think one of the biggest things that's made this so strong is that I'm open with her. I talk to her about everything. And if I see her that she looks like she's getting concerned about something, I will force her to talk to me. Because if I don't, she's going to manifest answers that necessarily are not the truth and feel insecure and inadequate for that. And that's some of the other words I was trying to say with what she told me at the restaurant. So I don't ever want her to feel like that.
No,
I still think of her as the prettiest woman I've ever run into, the one I love. And that's the way I want her to think, because it's true.
Yeah, it is true. So now, as you go forward with this, what are your goals?
My goal is since I have always been forgotten and kind of unloved my whole life, I want to spread love and happiness to people. I want to educate people of what people like me are. We're not necessarily, this isn't a choice for us. We were born like this.
Yeah.
We do have a choice of who we want to be. And it's going to be a lot easier for us to assume that gender than some other people. But I want to educate people to understand that we are all humans. None of us asked to be here. We have to go through this together. So we got to stop looking at the homophobia, the racism, and all this other stuff. We should embrace everything that we have as a difference and realize that together, that makes an amazingly beautiful place that we can accomplish anything with. So those differences are our strengths and ways. And we just need to all accept that, because I don't see life through colors and I don't see life through personalities. It's not for me to judge.
No.
They will always be my brother and sister. They can always come up to me and talk to me about anything. I don't care who you are, and I will be there for them. So I just want to be the best person I can be. I want to spread love and happiness, and I want to educate.
And I think that's why when you and I started talking, and that's what I want to do. I want to bring out where you can be who you are. And, right now what the world is going through, we have no control over.
No.
But we have control over us and what we say and do. Some people are going to watch our show and be judgmental, for sure. But they can turn it off if they want. Or it might not be what they ever thought of that could happen to a person, but they're learning something. Once they learn it, they can put it back in the back burner, but they have a little more knowledge about a different lifestyle, how different people go through so many things.
Right.
And our goal, and I say our goal because I've just kind of connected with you on such a level now that I will do whatever I can to help you in any way, in any platform. And I will be behind you. And we just met. But it's it's a connection. I don't get this connection that often in my lifetime.
Yeah.
And I think we should move forward and let people know. And we'll talk about that as we go forward. And, we'll come back maybe in 6 months and do another show of how things are going, keeping people updated. But I think today with this show, we have a tool to work with to go forward.
We do. And that's important. You got to have those tools.
You have to have them. So as we're coming to the end of the show, Emma, what advice would you give our audience?
If you walk down the street and you saw me, would you see a male? Probably not. Maybe you could. Maybe you can't. Would you hate me because of that? Or would you hate me because of the person I am inside? When you look at somebody, don't look at the color of their skin, look at the color of their heart, because that's truly what you cannot change. You can't change the outside either, but the color of skin doesn't make you who you are. The lifestyle that you live doesn't make you to where you are today. You can overcome anything. Believe in yourself. Be passionate about what you want. Love your neighbors just like you would yourself. Don't judge them. It's not for you to judge. Don't worry about what they do in their life. It's not going to impact you. Just because somebody believes in Jesus or somebody believes in Allah does not mean that if you listen to them, you're going to automatically believe in that yourself. Be open-minded and look at the world as a better place and how you can better yourself. But you have to do it here first before you can help the rest of the world. And whatever it is, just love yourself and love everybody around you, because life's too short to hate. And if we bring love together, we bring people together, I could only imagine what a utopia we'd be living into today.
Wow. So true. So true, Emma. Well, I want to thank you for your time, for sure. I'm so happy that we have now connected.
Me too.
And your message going forward is going to be the inspiration of so many people who have not even spoken about what they're going through, but hearing you and watching your positivity and in the early days, not knowing what was happening, but you made it through. You
did.
made it to the other side. And your
Can't give up.
strength is, you can't give up. So your strength is definitely amazing. So I want to thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be talking, and we'll check back with like 3-6 months, do another show with that. But in the meantime, we're going to move forward with the tool we have now.
Absolutely. That's where we got to start.
I love you.